Well, hey there, Amanda here.
And Chris Lavelle.
And you're watching the Crush Method Show, and we are talking all about how you pick your niche.
Yeah, a lot of people get stuck on this for days, weeks, months, years. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with my niche. What do I focus on?
Yes.
We don't want that for you, Coach. We want to help you out.
Yes, absolutely. My first business coach, actually, we worked for 6 months?
Yeah, it was easily 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You were a great example of people working for weeks, months, and trying to get clarity on that niche.
P.S. Spending thousands of dollars with that poor coach.
Yes, let us save you a little bit of money, possibly, with this little chat we're going to share with you today.
Yeah. So, there's that saying, the riches are in the niches, and it's cute and all, but the riches are in the clients, my friends.
Absolutely. It's not that the riches are in the niches. If you can't find people to coach, it doesn't matter what your niche is. You've got to find people, and they actually have to pay you, spoiler, to coach them.
Exactly. I think it's one of those chicken and an egg kind of a situations where if you know the audience that you're targeting, then it's easier to get clients. But if you don't know what kind of client you want to have, then it's hard to know what audience you're targeting.
Well, and it's also only easier to get clients if you know your niche, if they're actually there to buy.
Exactly. So, what I ended up doing is I didn't work with the first coach, and then I kind of wandered around aimlessly for a little bit.
Yep.
And then I joined a community, and then I joined another one, and then I took another course.
Found another coach.
And then I found another coach, and she said, Amanda, ditch the niche. She said, just ditch it.
What does that mean?
Forget
what does that
it.
mean in that context?
So at the time, I was trying to coach executive women on burnout because I had heard the wisdom.
Maybe you've heard this too. The
Yes.
wisdom of coach yourself at some point in your past.
Yeah, 5 minutes ago. So
there you go.
5 minutes before, I had been a female executive experiencing burnout. So
That's
it was
right.
a very logical choice.
It seems so.
But looking back, sober second thought.
Yep.
Monday morning quarterback. That was a terrible choice because I was dispassionate about the topic.
You didn't want to be in that situation anymore. You didn't want to coach anyone else in it, really.
Right? I was it was a traumatic experience. I didn't really want to go
You don't want to relive it with strangers all the time.
Right. So actually, if you think about it, my subconscious was like, no, and just don't do it. But on top of that, I think I was very hungry to be successful as a coach.
Yep.
So I put myself under a lot of pressure to have a lot of definition about what I was doing as a business because I was getting all of that advice from everywhere.
Well, sure. A lot of people were saying you've got to have a niche. In fact, you went through a certification program. You've got 2, and you went through one of them, and they said you've got to have a niche. That's the only way you're going to be successful. And they spent a lot of time on helping you get clarity around your niche, which for you wound up being a little early to do that.
What I'm so grateful for is the second major coach that I hired. The thing she really got me clear on, and I'm just so grateful for this, and it's really affected my business coaching, is she got me clear on how much money I wanted to make.
There you go.
Oh, I just said the M word.
Well, it kind of ties into what we mentioned earlier. It's great to have a niche, but if there's nobody you can find to coach, you can't make any money, and therefore you don't have an actual business. You have a hobby.
Yeah, and more than that, I mean, before she gave me that coaching, I was aiming literally at 10% of what I needed to be.
Yep, you had a very small goal.
I had a
result.
teeny weeny itty bitty itsy bitsy goal. Yep. And so when people would be like, Amanda, what would you like to do? I would be like, oh, this would be nice. And they were all really tiny. Oh, this would be nice. And they were all really teeny
very small goals, yeah.
Tiny little itty bitty goals. And it's and I think the reason that I did that was probably because it felt achievable and safe.
Well, I think that's the reason a lot of coaches maybe go that route too.
Yeah,
they want to just kind of dip their toes in and get started. They want to feel like they can be successful without hitting a wall and just suddenly coming to a stop.
Yeah, but what my coach did is she's like, well, what do you want to do again? And I was like, I want to replace, multiple 6 figures as a coach. And she's like, how much are you charging? And it was just a math problem. She was
That's right. You don't have enough hours at that price to generate the kind of results you want and sleep.
Exactly.
It's just not possible.
It probably helped that she herself was charging me multiple 5 figures to work with her.
Oh, there's some clarity for this,
which was the most, I'm like, you want me to pay another human being this much money for a service? Now, fortunately, I did have a rather nice car because you gave me that Challenger for our engagement ring. So I'm like, I have bought a nice car before, but I've never given a human
the equivalent of a nice car.
The equivalent, like, I'm like, I don't even get a car at the end of this.
That's right.
And you're, but here I am giving you the card. Why? Because she was working on a problem that I really cared about.
And that's really the clue there. The whole point of that particular consideration is you want to work on a problem of appropriate magnitude.
So good.
What you call a PAM.
I call it a problem of appropriate magnitude, which is more important than a niche.
That's right. You want to be able to help people with a problem that they really value at a rate that you actually want to be paid at.
Ring a ding.
And that's important.
Ring a ding. And so I just remember the mindset shift was so radical. Instead of me trying to like, oh, I'll help with this safe niche here, and
I'll help people with their mail stack. Nobody's going to pay you the equivalent of a car for a mail stack.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least very few.
Their office, and it's like
that's not a big enough PAM.
You can do office organization. You can.
You can do that.
There's nothing wrong with doing office organization, so long as you're clear that people only value that so much.
Yep.
Right?
Or you have to do a lot of work to find the people that do value it at the level you want it to be valued at. Precisely. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like the classic analogy of the 3 legs on a stool, and you have to have all 3. You have to have the PAM for the people you want to serve. That's a problem or a result they want. That's of sufficient magnitude that they're willing to really pay for it.
Yeah.
At the second point, a price you're willing to accept.
Right.
That's the second leg of the stool. And the third one is on a topic that you actually want to coach on.
Oh, yes.
For example, if somebody wanted to ask you to coach them on, I don't know.
6-pack abs. I would say
abs.
no.
There you go.
I would say hard no.
Hard no. I have no interest in that, for example. But if you're talking to me, I might be more interested in that.
You might do that. Yeah, you might do that kind of coaching.
So it's got to have all 3 of those elements to it. And that can be easier in some ways when you know your niche, but also harder in some ways when you know your niche. And the same conversely is true when you don't really focus on a niche.
Yeah.
And that's kind of option number 1 here is what if you don't jump at a niche and you just say, I'm going to discover it naturally over time based on coaching a lot of variety of people and getting clarity on what they actually pay me to coach them on. Do I want to coach on that? And can I get paid at the rate I want to be coached on? All 3 of those elements I was just talking about.
Yeah. I think of it almost like in relationships, You got to date around a little bit, maybe.
You need data via dating to get clarity in this case. And so naturally, the niche develops over time. And we call this option the natural niche.
And that's ultimately what worked the best for me.
And me, actually.
Was to date around and not get so committal. And,
that's right.
And I actually do remember being so serious. I was a little boy crazy when I was a teenager and so serious about what my whole future was going to be.
You were planning it out from 15, 14 years old.
And I wasn't taking into account all the other people that I might meet, and don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. But the point is that when you are young and when you're first starting out with your business, you have a very limited view of what's possible. And I think sometimes it is a good idea to date around and to
get some real data of what's possible.
Join a mastermind, go to some networking groups, ask around, meet some other business owners, explore the internet, and don't just scroll through what's being fed to you. Genuinely go out there and research, oh wow, there's experts in these areas. My goodness,
get some real data to validate things.
Get some data about what is actually out there, because you'd be surprised. There are experts on everything,
all kinds of stuff,
all kinds of things. And by the way, we did a much deeper dive on niche selection in a full-blown training in our community, the Coaches Plaza, which is our free Facebook group community. You should come check it out. It's www.thecoachesplaza.com if you want to come join us for free.
Yeah, and we talk about a second and even a third option for the niche topic and strategy to help move you forward.
Yeah. I mean, I ditched the niche for a while, but then I realized, from my kind of history, I really have always been drawn to systems and process. I'm a bit of a process nerd.
Oh, I respect that.
Right? I have a chemical engineering degree by background, which is just step by step.
That means process.
Remember New Kids on the Block?
Oh, no, don't do it.
Step by step.
Oh.
Ooh, baby.
Oh, that's so bad.
I'll stop there.
Oh, thank you.
So, but I love step by step. I'm a spreadsheet queen.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you remember when the kids were little itty bitty and we had
I love that about you.
We had the nanny au pair
Yes,
situation.
yes.
I made a handbook for our house that is 114 pages
Here's
long.
how we run our house. So she likes a good process.
I love a good process. So that's just like who I am. And for 10 years I was a strategy consultant for a big corporation. So like I know how, like that's how I think. That's how I am, right? And then I add to that the personal development, the coaching, the mindset, the energy work. You know, when you look at what we do in the Coaches Plaza and with the Crush Method, helping people leave a corporate job because they are stepping into their genius, they're stepping into their expertise, they're stepping into entrepreneurship.
They've got clarity on processes and systems and strategies that can help them successfully transition. That's what we do.
I'm so excited to help with that because I have the equivalent of 2 MBAs on entrepreneurship at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious? For years, I was like, I'm not going to get an MBA. And then joke's on me. I became an entrepreneur.
You kind of got one anyway.
I invested heavily. I have at least 2 MBAs worth of programs and courses and coaching and life experience. But I just love codifying that and being able to like hand it over to people who speak my language to be able to say like, here's how you entrepreneur, former employee. Mm-hmm. This is how you can actually make a lifestyle out of it. Yeah. So anyway, super excited about it. There's 2 other ways though you can do the niche thing, and I'm going to invite you to come check out the training.
Check it out and find out more about it. We go a lot deeper over in the Coaches Plaza.
We'd love to see you there. We'll see you there, Coach.
All best, Coach.
Bye. Mwah.